Hi, and welcome back. I'm Amy Sonnemann, and in this segment, I would like to share with you the tools that we can use for our stencil collection to give it a whole new look. New tools, old tools, all of the things. As you can tell by this lovely bouquet of blending instruments, there are a lot of tools on the market for ink blending that do different things, that are for different purposes. And this segment, I would love to show you the different kinds of blending tools, what they do, how they work, the pros and the cons, kind of just giving you an overall picture of why and how each of the different types of tools work. So let's get started. I got my station set back up. I have my Make Art station on the bottom. I have my Tim Holtz replacement mat to blend on. I have paper that I'm going to blend on, and this is the Vecchi mixed media paper, which blends beautifully. Paper matters, and we'll discuss that a little bit later in another video, but paper does matter. So if you want to test things, I highly recommend testing the paper you want to work on as well. So what we're going to do with the first tool, we're going to use an oldie but goodie, the Tim Holtz blending tool. Okay, so we're going to ink it up. We're going to start with picked raspberry, and we're going to tap off. We're just going to kind of blend on. Puts a nice even coat, dark coat of ink on the paper. And the Distress Oxides do a wonderful job of blending one on top of the other, and it's smooth. The one thing that sometimes I have a problem with is the edges. If I don't use an ink that blends really well, with this tool you might get harsh edges. I go through a whole project, I get to the very end, and then I get heavy-handed or I go too fast and I don't tap off and I get this smudge, this harsh line, and that bothers me. So you have to take a little bit of extra time to just kind of be cautious about blending with these tools. But the more you practice, the better you get. And it also helps to use a different foam and ink it up really well. The first time you use one of the foam, you kind of want it saturated. You kind of want it nice and dark and into the foam itself. The first time you use it might not be as good as the 7th or 8th time you use it. So we're going to ink it up really well. We're going to blend the two together over the center. And as you can see, you get dirty when you ink, but the two blend beautifully one over the top of the other. Night skies, oceans, beaches, perfect for all of those things. Okay, we're going to go back in with the pink, picked raspberry. We're going to ink it up again. We're just going to kind of blend that center piece a little bit again to kind of give it a more gradual blend. So Tim Holtz Distress blending tool works beautifully for putting down a lot of ink and blending beautifully. So that's one option. And it comes with replacement tools or replacement foam. You can always store them on the back of the ink pad with a little piece of Velcro. So you have your ink with the correct color on the bottom. They are reusable. The next tool I'd like to share with you is the Scrapbook.com stencil brush. And it has these fine bristles, and it allows you to get different types of effects with the bristles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of the Tim Holtz background stencils that is a brick. And for something like this, I want a tool that'll allow me to get lights and darks and swishes and maybe lines. And I chose this specifically to be able to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tape down my stencil with the memo tape from Doodle. I want to make sure that my stencil is straight so that my bricks are not crooked, because nobody wants crooked bricks. So let's tape that down. I'm going to use one side for the hinge And I'm going to use my magnets to keep it in place outside of the area that I'm stenciling. The first color I'm going to use is pumice stone, which is a Distress Oxide, and I'm going to just kind of load the stencil brush with ink like this. And then I'm just going to kind of dab. I don't want clean, I don't want perfect, I want scraggly and scruffy and like brick, you know, kind of those textures. And you want more in some areas, like darker areas and lighter areas. So the first round, I'm just going to kind of quickly just kind of dab and sweep and swirl. So we're going to take a look at it and we're going to see what we think. I like it. I like that for a base, but I want so much more. I want more detail. I want more highs and lows and lights and darks. So let's put it back down and add the extra texture. The first color I used was the pumice stone. The next color I'm going to add is gathered twigs. I want something darker to add more detail. So I'm going to use the same brush. Distress Oxide washes beautifully off of this type of brush. So you don't have to worry. You can, as long as you go from light to dark, it washes beautifully. It's not going to harm your ink pad or anything like that. Now we're going to go back in with the second color, and I just want to swipe. And it looks kind of weird, but I want different colors in different spaces. And I want to go back in and I want to maybe make some areas darker, some lighter. And it looks like a hot mess at the moment, but just wait. It's starting to look very much like a brick wall, but I think I wanted to add one more color, something a little fun and funky. So hold tight and we'll add that. The next ink color I'm going to go in with is black, but before I do that, I want to show you one of the features of this brush is their bristles. So the more you swirl and swish and the harder you are on them, you will have some loss of the different bristles. That's okay. Just kind of push them aside. It is so dense that it's not going to make a difference, but you will have some shedding, and that's normal. So now we're going to go in and we're going to add just a little bit of black to make it a little more, give it a little more depth. We're going to go light-handed and we're just going to swish. Because I kind of want the veining and I don't want it black. I just want one more little bit of color. So I encourage you to try this at home with what you have on hand because it definitely makes a difference. Okay, here's the big reveal. And I hope you like it as much as I do. Look at that. Absolutely beautiful. 3 colors makes such a big difference. And it looks real. I mean, the closer you get, it actually looks like there are lines and veins and so forth. And that's just by the swishing of the stencil brush. This isn't something that you'd be able to do as easily or at all with, say, a blending tool. Like a foam blending tool, you might be able to lay down the initial color, but you'd never get the highlights and the brush strokes. And I love that. So I choose this for a different purpose than I would choose, say, a foam blending brush of some sort. The other thing I'd love for you to do is just kind of for your own reference. I love this. I don't know if I'd be able to recreate this if I tried without writing down the colors that I used. So on the back of this, I will write Distress Oxide Pumice Stone 1 or Layer 1, Gathered Twigs Distress Oxide Layer 2, and then Premium Dye Ink Black from Scrapbook.com in number 3, so that I know what I put down first, because you look at this and you're never going to know that your base is pumice stone. You're just not going to see that. So make sure you kind of keep an eye out on what it is you use. Make notes. Even if you never use this for anything, punch a hole in the corner and make yourself a set of samples with all of the different things that you come up with. So as you play, create samples and write what it is on the back. It'll be so helpful in the long run. The next tool I'd like to share are foam daubers. There are a bunch of different sizes. There are the large jumbo dauber that looks like this. And then there are the smaller daubers that look like this. They either come in black or they come in clear. And I use them for different purposes. So I'm going to show you a little bit about what they're good for, how to get the most out of them, and so forth. So first we're going to start with this circle template. It's a new one from Scrapbook.com. I've taped it down from the back side with my purple tape, and then I adhered it down with my magnet so that it doesn't move. We're going to go in and we're going to add a couple different colors. We're going to start with this pretty blue. It's called Mermaid. We're going to ink it up. We get a nice deep color. We're just going to kind of add it to the circles. So it's very easy to use. We're going to go ahead and we're going to switch colors. We're going to do confetti pink. I'm going to ink that up. We're just going to go in and add our second color. Kind of blend them in the middle, which is so pretty. Kind of gives it that purple effect. And you can, if you're doing large spots, it's really nice to use the big jumbo dauber. And you get this wonderful variegated look. And a big reveal like this. But say you wanted to do rainbow. You wanted to do each row a different color. You wouldn't necessarily use something this big because you would have to mask each row off and you'd have to dab each one separately. I have a better way to be able to go about that with the smaller daubers. Now I want to go in and I want to make beautiful rainbows. Let's do pink and purple. This pretty mermaid and a blue. Let's do an orange as well. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to rev up the color and we're just going to dab it. As long as you don't get all crazy, you won't get it into the next hole. You know, they're perfectly sized for these dotted stencils. And this is Orange Spice. Let's set those aside. Load up our orange. Nice and bright colors. It holds the ink really well. All right, guys, you ready for the big reveal of this pretty rainbow? Let's move everything aside. Take off our magnets. It's still taped down. Look how pretty that is. And look how pretty the stencil is afterwards. It kind of makes me not want to clean it. I just want to look at it every day. But look at how beautiful the rainbow is. You're going to clean off your stencil when you're done with it so you don't transfer color. Now the hybrid inks do stain a little bit. It does not hurt the integrity of your stencil. If you want that off, you could always take a little bit of like hand sanitizer or maybe an alcohol wipe, and that would clean right off as well. The next set of tools everyone calls life-changing, and those would be the life-changing brushes, stencil brushes from Picket Fence, and there's also a set of brushes from the Stamp Market, and those are tightly woven or tightly packed brushes that actually probably were inspired from the makeup department. And they hold a lot of ink. They're very smooth and they give you a beautiful soft look on your stencil or when you use it with your stencil. We're going to try a couple. They come in a lot of different sizes. The biggest one is to cover the most area. So I'm going to take this and ink it up. And you can add color. I tend to go in the center. It doesn't give you harsh edges, so I go right to the middle. I don't even tap off. I just go right to whatever I'm working on. And that's the nice thing about these is they don't give you that harsh edge. But if you want something really dark, you have to work a little bit harder, actually a lot harder, to get something that's super dark. You have to go over it again and again. But if you want that subtle kind of light background, this is the perfect tool for that. And the different sizes work beautifully for adding darker pieces to whatever the stencil is. So say I want just a highlight on the bottom edge of each of the little Moroccan tiles. I'm going to go back in with the same color but with a smaller brush. And I'm just going to flick color up from the bottom. You can do lots, you can do a little. If you want to tap off, you can get less. It creates depth and shadows that you might not be able to get with something that's larger. And I'm not being super careful, but if you didn't want anything over the edge like that, you could easily take a Post-it note or something, or some of the memo tape, and just mask it off. Here's the reveal. It doesn't look like much now, but check this out. Look how beautiful. It really looks like Moroccan tile. Kind of has that different effect to it. You can do an ombre and so forth. Who would have thought that that would be that beautiful? You know, just one color looks great. You add a second color and it gives a totally different look. So I encourage you to try that. And those are the life-changing brushes or blending brushes that are new to the market this year. Speaking of new kids on the block, Sizzix came out with a multi-purpose tool that's also an ink blending tool. And I didn't realize it at the time. And then I got looking and thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So what you're going to get this multi-tool starter kit. And it comes with this kind of stylist, but it has different tips on it. It has like an edger to kind of scuff up your edges. It has a cutting knife, like a X-Acto knife, and it has a replacement end to, if you want to cap off the edge, this can go into one of the edges. But what the nice thing about it is later on they came out with a blending tool tip, and they look like this. And what happens is this tip goes inside of the tool and it fits in perfectly, and there's your blending piece. The other thing is if you take this piece off, this is the part that would kind of cap off the back, it can hold two blending foams at once. Say you're doing it in two colors, you have two tips that you can easily switch between. Works just like some of the others on the market, but it allows you to have two tips at once. So if you're doing an ombre, you can go pink and then you can go to the red and then blend back in the center. Great tool. Really enjoying that a lot. Didn't know that it existed. I didn't know that the tips existed for this. I had this for a while, and it took me a while to realize that these actually went on this tool. So if you didn't know that, it might be something that you want to pick up. Another new kit on the block is from Nouveau, and they come in a 3-pack, and they feel good in your hand when you're blending. It's nice and chunky. It also has the same kind of hook and loop tip on it, replaceable. All of the tips are replaceable. They come in 3 in a pack, and each one has their own blending piece that is removable and exchangeable. Works the same way. It has a nice grip on it, so when you take it to your paper, it feels good in your hand. I am so excited to finally reveal the ink blending tool with dome foam applicators. And you've kind of seen sneak peeks along the way. Now I get to show them to you for real. So the nice thing about what we created is that there are 2 handles in every package. Each handle has a dome blending tool on it. So there's 2 here and then 3 replacements. So this is the initial packaging, which is so pretty. I love the rainbow. Makes me happy. And then you can get a replacement set of domed foam applicators, and there are 10 pieces in the replacement kit. So to get started, you can easily have lots of colors in your stash. All of the different ink pads and so forth, you can easily expand into more colors with just a pack of replacement foam. As we were creating a perfect blending tool, we tried and we tested, and we came up with a domed top, because a lot of our customers say that it's really hard to blend with a flat foam because, you know, if you're heavy-handed, you might get an edge and so forth. Well, we came up with this domed foam so that you don't have to worry about that. There's no harsh edges. It slightly kind of tapers off at the edge, so you don't have a harsh edge. You have to work really hard if you're going to get a harsh edge with a domed blending tool. So we're going to show you. It's a hook and loop. So each blending tool has the hook and loop here, and it attaches like this. We're going to go ahead and blend with Distress Oxides Salty Ocean. We're going to ink it up. It holds the ink really well. I always start off the edge just because we're so used to doing that anyway. But look how dark the color goes on. And with literally no effort, it goes on smoothly and evenly the first time. And see, you don't get that harsh edge because the ink doesn't go all the way to the edge. So pretty, so beautiful. We're going to add a different color. We're going to add chipped sapphire. We're going to change the tool. Put a new blank one on. We're going to ink that up. I'm going to start from the bottom and go up. This would be pretty for night skies, sunsets, sunrises, kind of at the horizon line. I'm going to turn this around so it's a little bit easier. Bring it in from the bottom. I'm going with a pretty heavy hand to get that nice dark color, but if you wanted to go lightly, you could easily just get a light layer too. It's all about how heavy you use it with your hand. So you can get dark, you can get light, but what you don't get is any harsh edges. And I love that about this tool. That's what makes it so unique on the market. We're going to blend the transition a little bit more. Perfectly blended, very little effort, and no harsh lines. That's why I love this tool so much. It just makes stenciling and ink blending so much easier, and I hope that you love them as much as I do. I know that was a lot of information, and I totally get it. I hope you learned something new to use the tools that you have, or maybe discovered a new tool that you would like to try. There were a lot of techniques, and I know it can get overwhelming, and I totally understand that. But I encourage you to try. I encourage you to bust out your stuff and see what it will do, and play, and give yourself permission to play. I hope that you've enjoyed this lesson. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video and want to see more from Scrapbook.com, please like, share, subscribe, and leave a message. Happiness is life handmade.